I'm going to speed through this because I don't really remember how much I remember or not without my notes, but I don't feel like reading my notes because that's going to take forever, and I don't really feel like stumbling over trying to read them right. Or correctly, I mean. Sorry. So, my Rapunzel's name is Moolimauli. Mooli is the plant, which is basically the Rapunzel equivalent in terms of vitamins and I think even fertility and things like that, because I'm not going to use rampion because rampion is a European plant, and I feel stupid using a German word meaning rampion. A German name mean. Bleh. I feel stupid using the term Rapunzel for rampion in my Hindi Rapunzel story. I'm just gonna do the best I can and learn what I can and correct things as I go, and I want to see what I can do with it. I want to do it in the most sincere way possible. I want her to feel like Rapunzel, but I also don't want just a Rapunzel copy. I don't like that. I don't like just plopping people into stories where it doesn't make sense. Like, I couldn't stand that Belle was British in Beauty and the Beast. And it's just like, I mean, American is one thing because it's the audience that it's going out to, but then it gets translated into different languages and different people speak it, and it sounds as close as it can to the original, but I feel like American is the mass market. If you can do it well, if you can make it where it can be respected among different cultures, but still be just another wonderful fairy tale, or hopefully another, well, there is no new fairy tale. Andrew Lang wrote that there are no new fairy tales, that they're just old fairy tales with new masks and new dresses. And I agree with that. You just mix and match and do what you can with what you have. And I really miss the old-fashioned fairy tale. The last one that we got was like freaking Frozen, and it wasn't it. I personally like Kai and Gerda. I ship them, whatever. Because it's a very Beauty and the Beast type thing. She very much loves him, despite his worst. And she has the capacity to love past his cruelty. And because of that, they both come out better. And I'm not saying that that's... I don't know what I'm doing. What was that G.K. Chesterton thing? The thing about, like, before a thing is lovable, it must be loved, is what I think it is. And I think that applies to all of us. But back to the fairy tale. I like reading the Andrew Lang books with all the different fairy tales, and there's one, it's actually the very first one in the very first book in the collection, and it's called Bluebird. And it's a very Rapunzel meets Cinderella meets Princess and the Frog story. Not meets Princess and the Frog, except for the fact that the princess turned into a bluebird. Or kind of like the magic snake in a way. I can't remember. It's Sorry, I'm trying to scramble and do what I can with what I have, and I get mixed up sometimes, and I'm working on it. I'm just working on trying to move forward and just keep going. But the evil queen curses the bluebird, and then hangs up a bunch of, like, knives and things so that the bluebird can't even get to the window. And it's horrible. But it ends with, I can't remember why the princess is supposedly at fault. I think he just thinks she is. It ends with her getting these, special gifts that are inside. This is so stupid. Inside, like, nutshells. And it's a very fairy tale thing. I mean, like, even in the original Rapunzel story, Parsinetta, can't remember if it's Parsinetta or Parsinola. There's one that's very different, and it's like, I don't like that one, so I'm trying to redeem that one, because it's the one where the witch takes away Rapunzel's gifts of beauty and song and everything, and takes away, like, her learning how to be a witch. And in response, Rapunzel trades the prince's life for the gifts. I'm sorry, I can't speak right. I'm working on it. But I hate it. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. This parakeet is, like, Rapunzel's only friend, and it's the only time I've ever seen Rapunzel have a pet in an actual fairy tale. But this pet rats her out to the witch. And then that's when that choice happens, and Rapunzel lets the guy die? What the ever-loving heck? No! I hate it. 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 So I'm gonna take that one and try to fix it. I'm gonna have... Well, and I even looked it up, and apparently birds are very big in India, like parrots and parakeets specifically. There are certain ones that are kind of off limits, but there are, like, budgies, I think they're called budgies. And they're a very lovable bird that, like, is a very lovable house bird, like household bird. And, at least in the stories. So I'm going to have that mixed with Rapunzel, and then mixed with some Hindi culture, which is the hard part. But hey, at least I'm looking and asking the right questions, and I'm doing the best I can with it. And Rapunzel is not a Hindi story, according to, like, obviously not. It's a German story, and before that it was an Italian story. But what I'm saying is that Rapunzel does not mesh well with Hindi culture from what I've seen. I know I'm using Copilot, but, like, I'll eventually get to the point where I can use the real research, but I need to know kind of where I'm going before I can get into the specifics and citing sources. But apparently, in Hindi culture, you're not supposed to sing for yourself, and in the original story, that's how Rapunzel passes the time. It even says so in the original story. So now Rapunzel can't sing unless there are people around, or birds. She could sing with the birds because her birds are her companions and things like that. Like, it's seen as self-indulgent to sing for yourself. Excuse me. And I don't get that. That's so very strange to me. And culture is culture, and culture changes everywhere. And of course, morality, a higher morality has to rule. I always believe that. But in terms of culture, it's not supposed to be weird, it's just supposed to be different. So I'm trying to think that way. And then, So I'm gonna have my Rapunzel training to be a Cadell. I probably said it absolutely horribly. Chadil or something like that. It's like a Hindi witch. And they don't look like the archetypal European witch. Like they're not big ugly hags, I don't think. I'd have to look again, but they're not, even if they are supposedly supposed to be, they're not in the same way. So she's going to be learning from the witch to be a witch, because of the Rapunzel story that I hate, quite honestly. Because I want that to be... there are some ideas in there that are kind of cool, but, like... No. I don't like that. I don't like that Rapunzel chooses gifts over the man she loves life. And, like, I know it's, like, so horrible, but, like, I mean, back then you were... in, like, I don't know how many different cultures, you were lucky to meet the guy, to, like, barely even click with the guy before you were married. You were lucky to meet them before the wedding day. So if you feel like you had a connection, I absolutely feel like true love is old school feminism in terms of equality. Or not even equality, and like in terms of what they had, they did the best with what they had. And that's why I liked Belle, is that Belle was she was as strong as she could have been allowed to be without being like killed for it or jailed for it. Like, I mean, I honestly think that Belle from Emma Belle, I usually call her, from 2017 Beauty and the Beast, like, she's walking around showing her underwear. First of all, girls didn't have underwear yet. And they were for dudes, usually. Like, I mean, even if at that, and even so, like, you're not supposed to show them. And even if you showed them, like, it's just like a slit in the middle for you to do your business. That's not modest. Like, untuck your skirt, woman. Like, no. And then James Baxter studied ballerinas. Absolute beautiful ballerinas to give Belle a beautiful ballerina turnout. And then we get Belle stomping through the village in basically equivalent of, like, combat boots. And, like, and then, like, the pocket, like, okay, cool, pockets are a cool idea, but you had them inside the dress. Like, I think people are kind of missing the point of fairy tales. It's to, like, learn about the different cultures and to, like, learn what it was like to a certain extent. But to also, like, I don't know. I'm kind of going brain dead at the moment. I'm just, like, overwhelmed with everything I want to say. And I know it's supposedly stupid, but it's not. I mean, because then otherwise you get, like, oh, well, Song of the South is so racist because it's, like, the Reconstruction era where the slaves were finally free and they were finally allowed to leave, but it was a difficult process of doing so, because where are you going to go? What are you going to do? But then your masters can't tell you what to do anymore, and won't even let you tell, like, a child that you've known all their lives a story. And one of the reasons that Song of the South failed so badly is because Walt Disney was trying so hard to be sensitive to the time and what it was. And I know that, like, the dude didn't get to go to the premiere. Well, I know it sounds horrible to say, but animators are actors, and they didn't get to go to the premiere. They didn't get to go to the premiere for Snow White, like very few of them did. But also Walt Disney was the kind where it was just like, if he would tell his wife, hurry up, I gotta go, otherwise we're not gonna get a seat. And she's just like, Walt, it's your movie. They're gonna save you a seat. And he's just like, no, if they get there before me, they get my seat. And she's just like, Walt, it's your movie. And Walt Disney is a very complicated character, because on one hand, he's fairy tales and a wonderful producer, and he can be a wonderful storyteller and could make the best story decisions. And that is an incredibly powerful thing. And then on the other hand, he's also the person who would literally rip off drawings from the storyboard to like make them fit better, which I mean is needed sometimes, but like he didn't always have tact in mind, and it was always story first, sincerity first, this for like somebody once said to Walt, like, you could do it the cheap way or the expensive way, and Walt said no, because if I do it well, then they're going to bring a friend, and if there's something new around every corner that they look in the ride, then it will always be new, and then they will always bring somebody else, and you'll make twice as much money because people will bring in people that they want to share it with. And I don't know, it's also complicated. I know it's complicated. And then like Walt Disney, oh, well, he's a racist, blah, blah, blah. No, he hired Floyd Norman before affirmative action was a thing. And, oh, he was an anti-Semite. Well, not according to Joe Grant, and not according to the Sherman Brothers. Walt, I think the worst Walt did was make a nose joke, but he was making a nose joke about the guy who drew the drawing and was, like, playing around, and I don't remember. It was something in Walt's People. I'll have to look it up. It's just, this is more of a blog than anything. Like, please don't take these all as sources. I have to cite these things, and, like, Walt was very much scared of the Red Scare. Like, well, scared in terms of the Red Scare. Like, he just did not want communism, and because of that, he didn't understand how unions work. And unions can, like, screw people over as well, so it's, like, I think it's a necessary evil. Like, you have to have somebody making sure that, like, conditions are okay for people, that people aren't just dropping dead on the workplace, or, like, dropping, like, because they didn't eat, because they didn't have, because they were from ink and paint, and the women were paid much less than the men who were animating, and, like, it's all so complicated, but if you look at it in terms of what it was, and where it was, and how it was, it's actually pretty amazing. And people judge it all way too harshly. And that was my stomach, I'm sorry. My husband's bringing home food. But, like, I feel like if you just do something because of doing it, and it's very extrinsic, and I'm not an extrinsic person, I'm a very intrinsic person in terms of rewards. Like, okay, a grade, whatever, you can cheat and still get the grade, and I know people who have, and it ticks me off because there are some people who struggle with the things that they just decided to, like, outsource and cheat and put their names on, and I don't think that's okay. And it's also very complicated, and also not. But I forgot about the part of Mouli. Mouli is the thread. Mouli is a red and yellow thread that they tie on things at feast, and sometimes tie on the idols. And it's a prayer. It's kind of like the locks on the bridge in France or wherever. Like, it's in France. I know it's Paris, France, Paris, somewhere around there. And it's like locking the secret on the bridge, but it's saying a prayer, like a silent prayer, and then tying a knot. And so Mouli is, excuse me, that's gross, that's unfortunate. Oh well, I'm not even going to edit this one. I don't want to. It's going to be too hard. I just need voice clips and authenticity, and I hope you guys respect that. And I'm going to have Rapunzel's mom, when she's old enough, when Rapunzel is old enough to go to tie a thread, and then the thread flies away, and the thread finds Rapunzel. And the thread makes her hair glow. And I'm also gonna have, like, Rapunzel has her own pet. She has her own little bird. But when the prince turns into a bird and whatever, I still haven't figured out why I'm turning the prince into a bird, because I don't think he's met Rapunzel yet. Moolimauli, I mean. And yes, it is Moolimauli. But I didn't want to use Tulsi, because Tulsi was like basically the same in terms of everything that the plant did. But it's a sacred plant, and I'm not going there. I'm not going to use a sacred plant for that. I'm going to use a common everyday plant that is like Rampion. End of story. So I'm going to have Rapunzel's bird, Moolimauli. I'm sorry. I keep trying to think in terms of how I'm explaining it, but yeah. So Moolimauli's bird becomes friends with the prince bird and basically shows him how to be a bird and brings him to Rapunzel, because Rapunzel can feed and take care of him. And then I'm gonna have the prince finally be able to explain, like, he's gonna be the intermediary between Rapunzel and her bird, because Rapunzel sort of understands her bird, like in the way that we understand dogs, but the bird is it's gonna be kind of like Tarzan, like in the way that Tarzan, like, oh, well, there's no word for this in the Mangani, which is the language of the great ape. So it's gonna be like that, but the prince is going to start noticing, like, the mannerisms that Rapunzel and her mother share, and be able to communicate it in a way that her bird couldn't. And apparently that's a good thing, because apparently birds in Hindi culture a lot of the time are ancestral, and feeding them is seen as compassion and, like, lineage and things like that. And it's like, I like the idea, and I'm gonna keep working on that idea. I've got some work to do on that idea, but that's where I'm going with it, and I'm going to try to make it as sincere as possible, and I will cite my sources as they come. So I hope you guys like this Yammerfest. Alright, well, may God guide you and keep you, and I'll see you all next time.